Hello, folks, and welcome to today's episode of the Hospitable Hosts podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Michael Elefante, a longtime fan of Hospitable, learning a bit more about his experience, but also learning about his academy, BNB Investor Academy. If you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to like and share on your favorite podcast platform. Enjoy the show. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, Miles, excited, man. Thanks for having me.
So maybe let's start with a bit of background. Who is Michael? Where are you based? What do you do? Tell the audience a bit more about you.
Yeah, for sure. Currently live just outside of Greenville, South Carolina. Been here for about 3 years. Got a wife, two young kids, and love short-term rentals. Currently own and operate multiple different businesses: interior design company, uh, coaching business, and a collective of businesses that was centered around a property management company, Home Team Luxury Rentals. But we do a bunch of other things as well. But it all got started when I first invested in a short-term rental property back in 2019, and just fell in love with the process, fell in love with hosting people, and figuring out just strategic ways to maximize my monthly cash flow and my ROI on investments. So that's how I got started. And then it was, low and slow over the years, just kind of started posting online, talking about it, educating people around the world. And it's kind of just unfolded in really cool ways over the past several years. So, yeah, that's what we're all about here.
Nice, I love it. Yeah, and so obviously you are kind of an educational figure in the industry, I'd say. If we follow you on social media, we can see you putting out some awesome tips. I want to briefly talk about BNB Investor Academy. That's obviously part of the reason why we asked you on today. Hospitable is obviously coming on as a partner there and helping kind of promote the academy, but also hopefully be an educational resource to those already in there. Maybe tell us a bit more about the academy, what it looks like, how it works, who you've got in there.
Yeah. So the Academy started back in 2021. Actually, before I started, I was taking free Zoom calls, free calls just on anybody who was interested in learning about short term rentals because I loved it so much and just wanted to help others get started. And I had a lot of people ask about more formal coaching or a coaching program or an online course per se. So I didn't really have any intention of building it until there was a lot of demand from it or for it. So I created it back then, and it started out as just an online course. But I realized over the years that people wanted more than just course materials and resources. They wanted handholding, they wanted mentorship, true coaching that can help push them along their journey and get into a property faster, learn the ropes, make sure they're set up on good systems like using Hospitable as a property management software, and all that good stuff so they can find success and greater success than they would be able to otherwise on their own. So that's how we started, and then it's grown substantially over the years. We have a full-time team of around 30 people, and we have strategic partners such as Hospitable that help in the coaching and mentorship for our students, which is great. So it's 6 months of active coaching, and we have, maybe 30 or so coaching calls a week that students have
Wow.
access to, in addition to one-on-one support. So we just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to have great chance at success in short-term rentals, and hopefully at least get that first property and then scale beyond that, whether it's property management or partnering with other people, growing their own portfolio, so on and so forth.
Sweet, I love it. That's awesome. And where can people check that out a bit more, find out more details on that?
Yeah, bnbinvestoracademy.com. And then obviously, if you go to my Instagram page, it's just at melefante6. I post content there all the time. And if you guys ever want to DM me, you're welcome to. Happy to share any details about that or just answer general questions that you have.
Sweet, love it. Awesome. So tell us a bit more about your property portfolio as well. Don't have to go into specifics if you don't want, but are you mostly focused on short-term rental? Do you do any other strategies in there? How are you kind of managing things?
Currently, yes, entirely focused on short term rentals. Over the years, I've started to go a little bit bigger. And a lot of my focus has been more in more or less the BRRRR strategy. So buy, rehab,
Mm-hmm.
rent, refinance, repeat. And I'll call it the Airbnb BRRRR strategy because we're doing short term rentals with it as our own twist to that. So we're
Nice.
looking for properties that are under market value but need a good bit of work in TLC. And we're fixing them up not only to increase the value of them, but we are strategically implementing certain design and amenities to the property that will increase the daily rate and occupancy and overall competitiveness of that property long term. And that strategy has gone really well for us. So we only have 9 properties, but not all properties are created equal, right? So I'd rather manage 9 that produce, over 2 million a year, which they do in gross rental income, than 50, just because the ease of management. And I'd rather be a little more strategic. And the portfolio is worth about, I think, 17, maybe $19 million across those 9. So the last several we've done were quite a bit bigger project size.
Nice, I like it. And those typically near you, or are you managing remotely as well?
Yeah, they're all managed remote. I mean, we do have a few properties that are within like an hour and a half driving distance, but they're spread out in a few different geographic areas. So we've managed everything remote from the jump. And frankly, even if you live local, you're really going to want to treat the business as if it's remote, because at any point in scaling really any business, but especially short-term rentals, you can't really be the one person who's in all places at all times. So
Yeah.
I'd recommend treating it like you don't live local, even if it is nearby.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the business is always going to be your baby, but at some point you need to be able to kind of leave it for the weekend, go away, have a bit of a vacation yourself as well, right?
That's right.
Nice. And what does the team look like? What is your kind of support network, I guess, on managing these rentals from afar?
Yeah. So for the first, probably 4 years, it was just my wife and I managing
Mm.
properties. And we even had a stint where we lived in a camper van and traveled around the US. And that we had 4 properties at the time. And then we acquired 2 more at the tail end of that trip. We were quite literally managing from our phone, or a tablet in the camper van, which was pretty wild. But that's why you have, great software tools in place that can help alleviate a lot of that manual work or monotonous work that's not necessary this day and age. And that's the beauty of just, the evolution of technology, frankly. But now, since we started the property management company back in 2022, we've scaled that to around 400 properties under management. So gratefully, I have a lot of support teams, systems, SOPs in place to manage not only my own properties and my business partners' properties, but all properties for all homeowners that we work with.
Cool, I like it. And then obviously tell us where Hospitable fits into that. You've used us for many years. How did you discover us in the first place? What attracted you to Hospitable in the first place?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, honestly, was the level of support and the responsiveness of Hospitable, because I've worked with some other softwares in the past, and if there was an issue happening or something wasn't working, getting in front of somebody that can actually help solve the problem was a huge pain point. And that actually really got a bigger pain point per se grew when we started the BNB Investor Academy, because we had a lot of students who were using other softwares and feeling
Yeah.
the same pains. So even if 2 software companies provide similar solutions, like that's a huge differentiator for me. How quickly can somebody help resolve an issue? How quickly can they adapt to not just you, but the industry itself, and create solutions that make your life easier, not harder? And so that's why I want to say almost 100% of our students are using Hospitable, and that's several thousand users and multiple thousands of properties on Hospitable, and the feedback has just been tremendous from everybody in the company, or every client per se.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And let's maybe kind of, for those people that may be new to Hospitable, maybe new to property management software, like from your perspective, as an outsider from the company, but you're very aware of what Hospitable does, how would you explain, what a property management software does, and how a short-term rental business should be kind of relying on it, and why it's so useful to have a software like Hospitable?
Yeah, I mean, you want to list properties and get exposure across multiple different channels. You want them all to act seamlessly together and respond to the same pricing and distribution across all channels. And then same thing with communicating with guests. Like you need a central point a single pane of glass view of everything that's going on in your business. Because if you don't, it becomes much more cumbersome to manage and very challenging. And not only that, some really cool features that Hospitable has released and is planning on releasing is very centered around AI. And basically, instead of hiring people or VAs, you kind of have these tools already built in at no cost additional to what you're already paying for Hospitable, which is very affordable. And that just makes things so much easier. So you can manage a whole portfolio of properties and spend a fraction of the time, right? And then you don't get double bookings. You don't have someone booking a property on one channel where pricing wasn't supposed to be, that low or that high, right? I guess that high would be good, but if it was lower than it should have been. So it really just, it's an extension of yourself, and it allows you to handle 10x more than you would on your own.
Nice, love it. Couldn't put it better myself. Sweet. So is there a particular feature that you absolutely love about Hospitable that you couldn't do without? You mentioned some of the AI stuff there. Maybe it's that. Is there anything else that you'd like to call out?
Yeah, I think, all the features are great. I think some of the AI stuff is big. And also, Hospital's been doing this for several years too, even earlier on when it was just recognizing certain questions like what's your pet policy, being able to generate a response without having to manually go in or copy and paste a message every time. It's just a huge time saver. And obviously with one property, it doesn't feel like a big deal, but when you have 5 properties or 10 properties or 30 properties, that's a huge deal, right? That's like, you could pay someone a full-time salary to manage a lot of that stuff the Hospitable's now taking care of. Another really fascinating thing that you guys, I think, announced pricing wise.
Yeah, it's safe to talk about it.
Yeah, safe to talk about it. Is your own dynamic pricing, which is incredible. So having all that built into one place, everything you guys have added and continue to come up with to add is just making things easier. Again, not harder for users and hosts out there.
Sweet, awesome, love it. And then I'd love to kind of understand maybe some of the other softwares that you're using, or you're seeing. I guess people in the academy use, or that you'd recommend on top of Hospitable. I know that a lot of people probably have more than just a project management software in their tech stack. What are some of the other ones that you're I guess bullish on, that you're really fond of in the industry?
Yeah, so anything that helps save time is huge. So Turno is one big partner that our clients predominantly work with. And Turno is really a central location where you can, one, find cleaners, but also manage turnover and cleaning maintenance, turnover management. So it automates syncing between you and the cleaners. So you don't have to send screenshots or call your cleaners anytime there's a cancellation. They get notified. They know what to do. You can build tasks and checklists in there, and it integrates seamlessly with Hospitable, which is phenomenal. So that's like probably the next biggest one, right? Communicating with guests and communicating with cleaners can be 2 of the most time-consuming things. So those are both phenomenal tools.
Nice, yeah. And I should actually call out there, if you integrate your Hospitable and Turno account, the Turno software subscription is actually free. So it's kind of one of those no-brainer things to get connected and use it to help you manage your cleaners.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I didn't even know that. So,
well, make sure you're getting that discount. If not, let us know. Sweet. And so I'd love to understand as well, your bigger view on the industry and how things are going this year. What trends are you seeing? Do you think that we're going to continue to see some struggles with bookings? We've had some data on past podcast episodes where year over year bookings are down, as we see on the aggregate for the US. We'd love to understand, how your bookings are doing. Do you think it's going to get a bit rosier later in the year? What are your thoughts and feelings at the moment on that?
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on location, because real estate, especially vacation rentals, are hyper local. Real estate has always been hyper local. It's almost like these little markets operate not in conjunction with the mass market. We do have some properties that we bought earlier on that, frankly, we did not do a great job, like a really, really great job on design and amenities selection. So those properties have had some diminishing returns, although they've still been phenomenal investments for us long term. And a lot of our newer properties that we've bought since 2023, we've had a major focus working with our team at Summerled Designs to set up the right way. And those have just been terrific. So at the end of the day, where the industry is going, and I think anybody out there that is actively involved in the short-term rental industry would probably agree, it's experience driven. It's all Airbnb seems to be focused on right now, is putting experiences in front of guests and in front of travelers. So the better experience was a culmination of the right design for your target audience, creating something they don't get to use at home or very frequently in their life. So that can be driven through amenities or the location, the setting of the property, how you deliver that to guests. That's going to be the most crucial thing that you can focus on if you want to beat out competition in any market.
Sweet, I love it. And I should probably check your account before I ask you this, but are you doing direct booking? Is that something that you've started with yet or
Yeah,
not?
yeah, direct booking, and then a lot of our students are getting more involved with direct booking as well. And I mean, that's as easy as you know a push of a couple buttons with Hospitable, which is great. But it's a no brainer for sure. I mean, we don't want to be, in my opinion, some people may disagree with this, but I don't want to not be reliant on OTAs because I want to meet the traveler where they're searching for properties. And quite frankly, people are going to Airbnb to look for accommodations. They're going to go to Verbo, Booking.com. However, Instagram and social media is starting to become almost like an OTA, especially if you have unique properties. It works really well for boutique hotels or just unique places where you can create viral content and then people find and share it. And then ultimately you're going to go to link in bio or comment a keyword, and then you can DM them, through ManyChat or something, some software like that, the direct booking website. So I've seen a lot of people have tremendous success actually driving heavy percentage of their bookings direct, where in years past it was very reliant on an Airbnb or Verbo. So that's an interesting trend, and I definitely would not want to be behind the curve on that. So it totally makes sense to have a direct booking site set up for that reason, and also repeat guests, especially if you're in a market where it's common for families to come back year after year.
Yeah, nice, love it. Yeah, we're definitely seeing direct bookings, the curves going up, more and more people are getting bookings there. And like you say, it's so easy to get up and running with it. With Hospitable, click of a button and we can get you up a website in minutes. Obviously, you need to put in some work to market it, but the getting started part is easy. There's no excuse to not do it and
Oh
give it
yeah,
a go, right?
yeah. You don't have to worry because in the past, you might have to go on WordPress or some other website builder,
Oh,
and they make it sound easy, but it's like still kind of clunky. Maybe it's gotten better now with AI, but I remember toying around with some direct booking stuff early on, and I have no idea what I'm doing building a website, and there's so much more that goes into it. So yeah, just even in terms of ease of use, I mean, it's a no-brainer just to at least start there before going and paying a ton of money for a custom website. It doesn't really make sense early on.
yeah, for sure. It's a good kind of test and learn. Can you get direct bookings for a nice, simple, quick, and easy website? If you're successful, sure, go and spend all that money and jazz it up a bit more
Yeah.
if it makes sense to do so. Sweet. Cool. Michael, I don't want to keep you long at all. Maybe just one final shout out. Where can folks find you on Instagram?
Yeah, it's you could search my name, Michael Elefante, or M Elefante 6. That's with an F and not a PH. Yeah, so you guys feel free to reach out there. Happy to answer any questions.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Cheers. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like and share and listen out for our next podcast episode coming soon. Thanks.